afternoon, everybody. My name's Tony Wilson. I'm a security consultant. I have my own company called Indelible Data. The word indelible will come obvious why I chose that name as I go through the talk. I help companies with pre-assessments if they're going through to ISO 27001, payment card industry, compliance, things like that. I help them with their policy developments, give advice and, on putting controls in place, audit what they've done, report back findings, and I'm also a security awareness training consultant. So, the Untangling of the Web document that came out, it came out a few years ago. It got my interest then, but it's been reheated recently. It's a document that's been created by the National Security Agency. A guide to internet research. Well, we all know what that means if the NSA is looking into Google. I then thought, okay, so what's online about me? What would I find? So I did a little bit of finding about myself using some advanced query techniques that I'll touch on. Found nothing interesting. And I thought, well, how can I research this without potentially entering a grey area of the law by finding something confidential and downloading it? So I decided to make it as a service to my clients. I will find out what people can find about you on the web. And that's when it started getting eye-opening, the types of things my clients had online. So the document that the NSA wrote contains 643 pages, which says a lot in itself. A chapter on Google hacking. Now that's not hacking into Google, that's using Google as a hacking tool. And consists of search engine queries designed to find classified information. Now, as I go on through the talk, I'd like you to think, how can I find out if, A, my company has information online? If it is online, what do I do about it? And how do I stop it? If you can just keep thinking of those things as I go through this. And that's where it comes to compliance. What sort of rules would you have to comply with? So what's so threatening about a search engine? A nice friendly interface. What do? We type in a few words, and what happens? We get the deluge of information back. And it's been likened to taking a sip of water from a fire hydrant. The amount of data out there, I think it would take 1 billion years to download. I've heard those figures. So Google made it a little bit better by having the advanced search operation. People may be starting to use this more and more now because they need to target information more quickly. And that helps us do things such as a date range or something like that, a particular site, a particular country, reject words, add words, things like that. All to reduce this information down. They made it even nicer. Accent comes over in a PowerPoint presentation. Getting a bit more clever, they allow us command line access. So this allows now automation to occur, scripts to let's do lots of these predefined searches. Let's make a database of the types of searches that would find information on our competitors or other states, for example. So these are the types of things that we can use as command lines. So if you wanted to narrow it down to a particular site you were targeting, you could look for file type, .xls, contains the word confidential, and you could have the site that you're targeting. Let's see if someone's put up online an Excel spreadsheet that's got the word confidential in it. Okay, so with those in mind, these are the types of examples that the NSA are more interested in. Okay, we want some sensitive information on companies in Africa. Why don't we see if there's any confidential Excel spreadsheets? Let's do file type XLS, site, ZA, and the word confidential, as I mentioned earlier. Straightforward, see what comes back. If you want to find it full of passwords, even in Russia or any other country, remember, English is the common word for these things like user ID, password, login. So yeah, we will find them if they have ever been accessed by Google. And you might think, well, how are they accessed by Google? And I'll be going into that shortly. There is an interesting warning in the NSA document saying that it's critical if you're handling Microsoft types, don't open them. Instead, use one of these techniques. And that bit's been redacted from public view. My guess why they've done that is because what if the person has laid a honey trap? They've typed bombmaking.xls and inside it put glycerin, things like that. And then put a macro in there. So you're oh, I found this, I'll download that. And now you're the one that's being affected. So I presume that's what they were talking about. So is it actually hacking? It is a grey area. Now, several years ago, Kevin Mitnick, a well-known hacker, redefined the term hacking, in my opinion, when he won a competition at a trade fair, security trade fair. I think it was IBM, it could have been DEC. Said, we have an impenetrable operating system. You win so many thousands of dollars if you can hack into it. People are queuing up. While they're queuing up, Kevin Mitnick is walking around the back, looking around, seeing that guy every half hour walks to that corner of the stand, leaving the computer vulnerable. Flimsy door with a little lock. He was able to go around the back, crack it open, put in his serial cable to his laptop, create a user, shut it again, join the queue. And when he came in, he logged in as himself. And he said, there we go, I've hacked into your system. Now they claim that's not hacking. Well, we now know nowadays, with this holistic approach to defending, we need to take everything into account. So I actually think we could term looking on Google for information as hacking. Certainly part of the hacker's arsenal. So how does it fit into the 5 phases of malicious hacking? Reconnaissance, well, it's Google. It doesn't come much better than that. You find out that you've got a box in the corner, you can find out anything about anything you want. Scanning, right, okay, there's not a port scanner, yeah, I'll give you that. But you could spend half an hour a day, finger a particular port, wait for the response to come back. Oh, that must be that type of operating system, right, great. Oh, it must be a Cisco something or other with that operating system. Or your colleague could go into Google and find out that the particular company you're targeting has just bought a load of Cisco routers from a particular shop, a particular vendor, and they've advertised it as a testimonial. So it takes seconds to find out something on Google that could take ages if you're going slowly, trundling through it. And where is it? Information. It's in testimonials, press releases, what people have sold to you, job adverts, must have Cisco picks, skills, must have Active Directory, must know a certain particular version of MySQL or version of SQL Server. It goes on. Companies are advertising the types of equipment they've got. An interesting one is script files outside of the resolver area. Now that just basically means in the olden days, about 15 years ago, I caught a file of this myself, where this is when dynamic web pages were done in Perl, and I wrote it, put it in the CGI bin area, and that's it. I went onto a forum and said, can anyone see why this formatting on that page isn't working? And then someone got back to me and said, you give your Perl script the path to it in the root of the domain, not in that CGI bit. And I clicked on it, and I was able to list your Perl script. Because the resolver didn't turn it into HTML, the browser just said, oh, here we go, there's a Perl script, I'll show it to you in text. So that got me thinking, I can't be the only person that's uploaded Perl to the wrong area. So I did file type .pl minus, to take out CGI bin, and lo and behold, thousands of people have got Perl scripts outside of the CGI bin area, and if you click on it, you will see the listing. And many people put their passwords in there, about database fields, whatever in there. So gaining access, that's one way. Google Docs, as it's affectionately termed, is the way, if people are stupid enough to put things on there, well, we're going to collect a database together and give you the paths. Demo files left behind, for example. WYSIWYG editors are the old-style WYSIWYG editors in WordPress are another example. Maintaining access, well, it's up there for as long as the company is unaware it's up there, but also the company may never know that you've accessed a file, because even though it's been put in the directory, you view the cache of it. You don't have to go to your target site. You can do all your work in the cache of Google. And that helps with the covering of tracks. Also, know you're there. You've ever been there. So that's an example of gaining access. The FCK editor is the old editor, WYSIWYG editor that used to be out there. And it has known vulnerabilities. SecurityFocus.com will show you exactly how, YouTube will tell you exactly how to upload a file onto FCK editor. And that file can be a shell script or things like that. If you do a search for root PHP, well, someone's already been in that back door and left something behind for you to go into that system. And index of, I find this a lot. People have directory browsing switched on, enabled. They don't know it because they never test for it. But if you don't have an index file in your directory, directory browser switched on, then you will see this. And you have access now to the directory structure. It's very common, this. Now, this is one way that Google now actually gets all the information, because once it's seen this web page, it follows the directory structure and gets all the other files and indexes them. It doesn't have to be done like that. Remember, Google just indexes anything it finds. So let's say your hyperlink does a query and returns some records, and it returns MySQL statement incorrectly terminated as an error. Well, that becomes on the screen. That's now in Google. I can now, or anyone can search for that phrase and know there's now a possibility of SQL injection on that site because of not terminated SQL command. Okay, so finding vulnerable editors. This is an example of a site that I've come across, and this is a public sector site. Now this brings up all sorts of questions about incident response, for example. It took me ages to tell these people they had a vulnerability. First of all, I said it was a vulnerability, but there's no way I'm going to email you what it is. No, it's okay, thanks for the interest, but we are pen tested by CESG. Well, they haven't found this particular simple vulnerability that automated tools will find. Also, so the incident response there, it had to go through my local MP up to the Cabinet Office, because this particular site had graphs and charts on it that I could upload in here, had graphs and charts that could make headline news if they changed. And I could upload a graphic. I never tried that. And this is the grey area, but I know that if you get this far, the next step is it would have worked. So it took me to explain to a fellow in the ISC Squared conference who was working in that particular sector to actually change that. So is it legal? Because it's in the public domain, can we access it? So it's a fair question. I'm not qualified to answer it, but I will tell you that Andrew Orenheimer was sentenced to 3.5 years. He had iPad. He found that AT&T's website, when the iPads first came out, wanted a nice iPad user experience. So what they did was, the ID of your new iPad would identify you, and it greeted you with your account. Certainly your email address and a lot of information about you. So all he did was send thousands of IDs up to it and was welcomed by everyone's account details. He argued that that was no different to just walking down the street, taking door numbers of houses, but it didn't quite work. And also, pointing to something at Twitter, Sally Burko simply mentioned something that was already trending, and she found the felt the long arms of the law. So that's why it is important, if you're going to be doing this type of thing, to always have the permission of the people that you're doing. That's why I run it as a service rather than for my own research point of view. So now the scary stuff. All these commands that have been out there and added to a database, yeah, you guessed it, there's an automated tool to try everything. And what makes it more frightening, I believe, is this part, the ability to use a regular expression, the ability to, all the information comes back. Now let's look for 16 digits together, run it through an algorithm to see if it's a credit card number. If it is, put it to one side. So an automated machine can just go around looking for those sorts of things. That particular regular expression is looking for email addresses. Now email addresses, people think, well, so what? Well, we know that mass marketing, mass emails use it, but also it's useful to a hacker when they want to know where people are hanging out. We call this in a watering hole. Okay, where do all the doctors on the web? Maybe the NHS has got very tight security, but maybe where all the doctors or all the financial people hang out to talk on their websites, maybe that isn't well defended, and maybe I can inject malware into that industry via a watering hole, and also use it for spear phishing attacks as well to get more and more information about employees and target those employees. Okay, so countermeasures. If we talk about the types of controls, what can help us stop this happening? Well, ISO 27001 helps us in this respect. It says, why don't you classify all your assets, hardware assets and information assets, know where it's stored, make sure it's confidential, internal, publicly marked, or whatever classification is. And also, on top of that, how do you handle each part of that information? So train people in it. Again, ISO 27001, a mandatory clause says security awareness training is required. And it has in Annex 8, it has the control to do that, to train people in that data. Monitor Google, set up and use, set up a defined query on Google and just let it run, and every time something crops up, you'll be alerted to something about you. I always say in my Twitter feed, first day of spring, do a spring clean. Tidy your house, tidy what's up on the web. And also the consequences of disclosure to be defined. People would be more inclined to think about what they're doing, accidents less likely to happen if they know that they're going to be held responsible. So ISO 27001 again has a control for that in its management and HR section. Robots.txt, that's used to stop Google seeing your site, but don't use it as a sticking plaster. Don't say, oh right, well, I need such and such to work from home, I'm going to copy this up there, it's okay, and she'll access it or he'll access it from home, but it's okay, I'm going to put the robots.txt not to index that file. You need to be more holistic in how you manage people working from home, not just quick fixes. And invest in a security tool that has an offline version of the Google hacking database. And I think as an area of research could be identifying the types of phrases, plugins to a particular tool for particular industries. I mentioned the financial sector. Let's look for 16 characters, put it through a Loon algorithm, see if it's a credit card. It could be used to search specifically for SCADA associated business. So the tools are out there to hack us, but the tools are out there to defend us. And that's where compliance comes in. We need to be able to plan the finding of this information, implement controls, check that they're working, and act upon any findings should they not have found, or should they be disclosing information about us. And that's my talk, so thanks for listening. Any questions, I'll hopefully speak to you later on. Thank you.